Welcome to part 2 of stopping a virtual machine. And who would have thought just simply stopping a virtual machine would need a two-part video? But as you can tell from part 1, there's a little bit more involved than just stopping it. There's different ways to stop your machines, and the little nuances can surprise you sometimes. So in part 2 here, we're going to talk about pause and suspend and understand the difference. A virtual machine can simply be paused. Now, really the best way to think of this is think of the pause button on a DVR, or the best example is like on a DVD player, Blu-ray player, and even better is the old VHS machine. You know, you could hit pause on those things and it will pause the movie or whatever's playing, and it'll sit there for a few minutes. Now, pause was not intended, to stop the thing and go off for a day or two. At some point it will automatically resume again. Now, your VMs are not going to automatically resume, but think of pause as being similar to the sleep mode on a laptop. Okay, everything just kind of stops working, no big deal. It's not exactly the same. But here's the main thing you want to remember with pause. Two main things, really. Number one, your processes are stopped, meaning you'll get the CPU utilization that the machine was using because most of the CPU utilization is going to stop. What I would encourage you to do is on your machine, open up a couple of virtual machines, right click on the host system taskbar and go into your task manager, look at that performance tab, and you can see your memory and you can see your CPU utilization. Go start pausing virtual machines, watch your memory and your CPUs, and then go suspend those machines and watch them, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. Now, when you pause a virtual machine, it does not release its RAM back out to the host system. So if you've got a host system that's starting to kind of get low on RAM, pausing a virtual machine is not going to help you. You'll have to either shut it down, stop it, or suspend it, okay? Now, you can use the pause for short periods or even long periods of time. It kind of depends on exactly what you're doing with it, humidity, solar flares, that sort of thing. But for the most part, you want to use pause just for those short things where you don't want to run the machine for a few minutes. Maybe you need the CPU utilization. Maybe you're installing something, doing something on the host, and you need the RAM. So just go out, grab a virtual machine or two, pause them, let your process run on the host, and then go back and unpause them and resume them. And you can also pause all your VMs at once. Demonstrated that in part 1 where I showed you how to right click the host machine notification area on that VMware icon. Now, when we pause a machine, there are some restrictions and limitations. First of all, I can't use Unity mode when the VM is paused. Well, duh. This makes sense. My virtual machine's not in operation, so it can't add functionalities to my host system in the Unity mode. Pause machines do not send or receive network packets. Be careful with that. If you're running a database server or anything like that in a virtual environment, if you pause it, guess what? You just paused everything there. Now, extended pauses may break connections. Connections will time out. Different software packages do heartbeats, and they'll go into panics and cause all kind of things, so just be aware of that. If you take a snapshot of a virtual machine while that virtual machine is paused, when you restore it, it won't come back in a paused state. It will come back up in a normal operating state. LEDs and devices remain enabled. You'll still see lights. Your devices will stay attached to those machines so that when you resume it, everybody's working. And I haven't really mentioned this a whole lot. As you may be aware, VMware Workstation can be used to open remote machines on some of VMware server products and so forth, but you can't pause remote VMs because they're remote and somebody else might be using them. We don't want to get into that. Now, when we suspend a virtual machine, this is very, very similar to pause, except there's one major difference, and that is all resources are released. So this is going to give back the CPU utilization. It's also going to give back the RAM. So what's actually happening here, the machine state, everything stops. The state of the machine that needs to be remembered is copied down to a VMSS file, and then basically the machine goes into like a hibernation mode, if you will. Now, you can resume a suspended VM very, very quickly. I like suspending them because if I'm working on one, say on my laptop, I can just suspend it, close the laptop, come back later, open it up, resume that machine, and in just a few seconds it's back up. I don't have to go through the tiresome long process of booting the machine. I like suspending and resuming. Now, this is going to be a little bit longer recovery than pause, but still, suspend's a great way to go. So the bottom line is, do you want to pause? Do you want to suspend? Pause for very short periods of time when you don't need the RAM handed back to the system. Suspend when you need the RAM. You're not going to use the machine for a while. You need all the resources. But just keep in mind, in both of these instances, pause and suspend, you are stopping that machine and you're going to lose functionality from it. And then, of course, just the plain old power off, shutdown, the thing's going down. It's not going to be available until you start it back up. So that's some of your options on stopping your virtual machines.